Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Live Your Spa Life show. Spa life is a lifestyle that accepts that accomplishment and harmony coexist. The Spa and Spa Life, the SPA, is for seek power always, that power within you to do your bigger work in the world. I am so thrilled to introduce to you my special guest today and friend, Toni Caruso. She is a self-proclaimed Eventaholic. I have to say that again because I know you all are just like riding down the road and you're like, she said what? Eventaholic. She loves events and she is amazing at it. Been doing it for over 30 years, brilliantly managing and successfully running organizations for entrepreneurs and entertainment on so many different levels. Toni, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
So good. I would love for you to share a little bit about your mission about signature events, because I think it's what you do is very unique. You're not just going out and just producing more events. You have a certain air to your businesses and what you're up to. What makes it different?
I believe that it's all about the audience. It's not about the person on the stage. You can have a lot of talking heads and they can be great speakers, but are they resonating with the audience? I look at an event as a guest would look at an event. I want them to walk in, find it very easy to find the room, park, all those little things that could put them in a negative headspace before they even get to you and hear your brilliance. So I want to make sure all those obstacles are taken care of. They get in, the room is comfortable, it's inviting, it's engaging. And then when you get on stage and start rocking it, they're feeling it, they're understanding it, and then they leave wanting to do business with you on another level. So it's all about the guest experience for me.
I love this. Now, how is it that, because you produce events for, a whole different range of people who are established and been on the stage for a long time, and, new people in entrepreneurial world who maybe not know the nuances of their audience. How is it that you are able to tailor to their particular audience?
Well, each audience pretty much is the same thing if you really realize it. Everybody's going to learn, collaborate, build their business, get contacts. We're all going there, for ourselves. We're walking in the door because we want to learn something new that's going to take us to the next level. So if you have that mindset, but if they're going to an event that, let's say, I work for Craig Duswalt, Rockstar Marketing. If you're going into a Rockstar Marketing event, it better be Rockstar Marketing. If you walk in and there's a lot of candles and a lot of woohoo and it's all feminine, it's not going to be the right mix for them and their expectations. So you have to realize what is the message that's being sent, what is your experience going to feel like, and then make sure that that is then shown from the minute they walk in the door. Rock music is playing at Craig's, but then, I have clients like Lee Keckner, who's Your Messy, Imperfect Life, and it's very feminine, white tablecloths, candles. It's a whole different feel.
Right. So it's so important when you're doing an event is like, what's the experience? What's the client experience that you want to have them have when they're with you? And then by having that experience, then they're going to connect that with you. Is that how it works?
Exactly. You tell me what are you looking for in an event? I look at your branding, I look at your messaging, and we try and envision what that's going to look like in a 2 or 3 day event so that we're bringing what you have been selling and doing for years to life.
Right. So what about for some entrepreneurs out there where they've kind of maybe been jumping through a few things. They maybe haven't been doing something for years, and there isn't that continuity between all of their marketing spaces. How do you bring some of that together? Do you actually have them decide hey, what are you doing going forward? Do you bring some components of that? Maybe they haven't thought through all of those parts.
Well, if they aren't at a place where they have a really good... There are so many events going on in the world today, just putting it out there. We have so many choices that if you don't have a decent list or a following, it's going to be very difficult for you to do an event and fill your room because no one's going to know you. So my suggestion is, if you're kind of all over the place and you don't really have a focused brand and you don't have a following, then your first choice should be to speak on other people's stages and build your brand and build your messaging and build your following before you invest in a one-day event, a workshop, whatever. I believe that, get that process down so you know it, so that once you start building it, and maybe you have 20 people in the room, 30 people, that's still an event, make all your mistakes in the small events, then you build to the larger event. And now you're very clear on what your expectation is for your event, what it should look like, what it should feel like. Because the worst thing to do is to bring all these people in, they have this great time, they're one experience, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, you know what, I don't really like that, I need to focus my business a different way, and you invite them to something else, and it's totally different. Follow?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a mixed messaging.
Right. So you want to get clear on what is that message that you want them to have, so they have a clear action about what it is that they're doing, so that they can, so you can really be supportive of that. Now, one of the things we know is that public speaking is a big fear for a lot of people. And, we've talked a little bit too. I mean, even though we get in front of stages, there's still that, anxiety that can pop up. Is there going to be a tech issue? Am I going to be clear? Like, there's all these things that pop up with public speaking. So for your clients who are speaking, what are some of those common mistakes? You mentioned about getting those out in some of the smaller events. What are some of the things that people can be on the lookout for? What are some of those common mistakes, so that they can kind of check off their list some of those things that are maybe in the way or in the fear?
Well, I believe that they should give. It's all about giving. So if you're going onto a stage with the expectation to get something, you're in the wrong business. So you need to figure out what you have, what's your expertise, what do you have that you can just love on an audience and give them. Not too much, just give them. If you have 5 amazing things and you have 20 minutes, give them 3 and love on them for those 3. Get very clear as to what that messaging is. Because I see a lot of speakers, they go up, they're not clear, they're nervous, and the audience feels everything you're feeling. So if you're not having a good time, they're not having a good time. And if you get on that stage and for 5 minutes of your 20 minutes, you're giving and you're giving them stuff, and these are my top 3 things, check your handout, follow me, and then the next 15 minutes, you're selling them on some program, you've lost them. So you need to understand the process, and don't get on the stage in order to build your business and make money. Get on the stage in order to give and to share and to start a relationship with people that down the line you might do business with them. It's a whole different mindset.
Right. Well, and it's so important because I think we've also, for those of us who've been to a lot of different events, it can also kind of jade you to think, okay, what are they selling me next, right? And being in this mindset of that. And, depending on what the event is, right? I mean, people who, have been following each other for a while, they go to a 3-day event, they may assume that there's going to be some sort of selling that's happening. But to know your audience, know what you're offering them, how you're helping with them, and that leading first with how you can support them, can really, really make a difference in how you're doing that. And so what I'm hearing here is that you are, you're very consistent, right, about how you're showing up for people, what is available for them. And I know you bring that into your personal life too, because part of what we talk about here is how you are consciously creating your life. A lot of people go by default, and you're very meticulous and you have very clear systems in how you do things, which is one of the things I love about you, is the systems that you've created. And what are some of the consistencies that you've created that have allowed you to really step into your business, and to really, what are some of those systems and structures that you've created for yourself?
I can't believe that you said that you love my systems and structures, because really I am like every other entrepreneur, flying by the seat of our pants, and you have to put those systems in as you go. And I learn at every event what I need to do better. So what I've found is, after you do something, what worked, what didn't work, and then put that in the process to the next event. And it's the same thing in life. I find that I'm an empty nester now, so it's kind of nice. Got the house to myself all day. So I can then take the time to take care of me. And I'm finding that self-care and working out every morning and taking care and stopping at a certain time of the day, where I used to be going 24/7, and that's not good for you. You end up getting sick. And so those are the systems I am now putting in place, is how do I take care of me so that I can then take care of everybody else? Because if I'm exhausted before the event even starts, how am I going to do a 15-hour day at an event?
Right. Absolutely. And that is part of what I love about what you're doing, is that you are looking at what works and what doesn't work. And part of what I want our listeners to hear is that you don't have to have a perfect system in place. You look at what is working, keep it very simple. Sometimes we have so many complicated systems that they don't work, and it causes more overwhelm and more anxiety. So I like the fact that you keep a few very simple systems and you tweak them as they go. And this is so important for our listeners, because there is sometimes that feeling that we have to have it all perfect, and that whole, if it's not right, there's that inertia that people don't actually do anything. And I love that you have an action attitude where you just move and you adjust as you go. And I think it's so important. One of the things that you're talking about is that you actually stop work at 5. Now, of course, there's exceptions to every rule, but I think it's so important. Carrie and I have been talking about this, about when do you actually start and stop your business? Because as an entrepreneur, we sometimes operate like we're 7-Eleven and it's like 24/7 and we're always going. So how easy is that for you to do, to keep that boundary around the 5 o'clock? And did you need to ramp up to that? How's it work for you? Because I know there's some people who feel like, especially with the endless to-dos, it can feel challenging to actually turn it off.
Exactly. And sometimes you can't turn it off. But I'm finding that I start to get tired around 4:30, and I'm not doing my best work. So I have found in the, just trying to find my rhythm, I found that about 5 o'clock, I shut it all down. I go out, I sit in the backyard, I have a glass of wine, my husband comes home, we have dinner. Then maybe around 8 o'clock, I get out my little to-do list and I start writing things that are now popping up in my head because I've had that time. You're so much putting out fires all day that you have to have that downtime so that your brain can start thinking about things that you've been putting off. So then I am a list doer. I have a book next to me all the time, and I'm constantly, it's a written form. And Diane and I have talked about this several times. I am not the computer calendar kind of girl. I put things in there, but I have to have it handwritten. I have to cross it off. There's something about that. So at the end of the day, I think about everything I did, and then I think about the things I have to do tomorrow. And I write those down so that I start the day ready to go and working on the things that need to get done.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think it's so important to know what works for you, right? And, electronics isn't for everyone. One of the things is I like to have a good mix of both. I think you can put some of like the bigger things on your calendar so like, okay, I'm going to be on vacation at this time. And, you can have kind of a loose structure. But I like to do like the night before, I like to write down what are the main things I need to do and put like 1 or 2 things in it, because I'm visual as well. So knowing what works for you and not trying to cram yourself into a system that doesn't work is also a way for you to be efficient and to have that happen. So I love that you are having some boundaries around your time, because so many of the studies now are that if you don't have that time away to let yourself, assimilate, that really what we're doing now, we're not managing time, we're managing energy. And just because you may be, clocking in more hours, you're not being more productive. And so it's important to know what that is and how you can shift and change that. And so I know that in some of the ways that you deal with the kind of, I'm so busy kind of thing, was I think that's like the buzzword for everybody, that they're so busy, is what are some of the things that you're doing to have more impact?
More impact. I am trying to focus on clients that actually have a message and have an experience where people will actually get something out of it. I think that's really important for me. I am partnering only with people that I like to work with, because if you don't like them, it's very hard to do what you do every day and then, and be their cheerleader if you don't really like what they're doing. So I'm very picky as to who I work with and the time that I give to them, because I believe it's all about the experience. Do you know that 3% of people take away from an event something that they actually put into their business or into their life. Only 3%.
Wow.
97% of people walk out of an event and go, God, that was great. I learned so much, and never use one thing that they've learned or look at their notebook again. Or, it's kind of sad. So I'm trying to focus on changing that and making sure that no matter what is happening in the event, you leave with like 3 or 4 really key things that you can do immediately.
Right. What have you discovered to help audiences have more like implementation? Anything that's come up?
Well, I find that if you are just a bunch of talking heads, they're gone. It gets tiring. So I try and make sure that the events that I do, there's enough breaks in them so people can get up, move around, that there's enough opportunities for them to be engaged with speakers, Q&A. So it's just not all talking heads. Make sure that there are things that you have after hours, a VIP cocktail party, or just, hey, let's all go to the bar and have a drink and talk, because I believe that it's the relationships you make in the room that are the most important. Yeah, the speakers are great and the information given is great, and you're going to take it with you, but if you can talk it out with the person sitting next to you and you can go, what did you think of that? Wasn't that amazing? Didn't you love that speaker? And then talk about it, it will make it so that it's more of a message that you'll leave with and work on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. A couple things that come to mind that I have found that I feel work really well is if you, in your notes, you've got one page that says like an action page. So if you've got something where you're like, oh, this is awesome, I'd love to implement this, or I'd like to do this, or I need to make a call, or what is it something that you can actually do, to just jot it there so it doesn't get mixed in with all your other notes. So I think a way to just kind of simplify it that way.
Absolutely.
And another thing I found that is like really great is I was at a couple events where they had almost like what do they call, like a study hour, if you will, where they actually gave you some time at the end of the event where you had quiet time to go through, highlight your notes, see what you could utilize, and actually assimilate what you've just learned. Because a lot of times I think people think that you're going to leave the event and you're going to, I'm going to spend a day and go through what I'm doing.
Exactly.
And, it just doesn't happen. I mean, we call it shelf help for a reason, where you put those notes up on the shelf and that's the last you see of it. And so to have some time in the event to actually assimilate and start really looking through it, I found to be really valuable.
Well, and everyone has their different processes. I always see a lot of people have the little Post-it notes, and they stick it so they stick out, like this is a page I want to remember.
Yep.
I know that a lot of people they'll put their page, and like you said, they'll put a little line on the left, and they'll highlight the things that they'll put a check mark or something, or an arrow, remember this. I was sitting next to one woman, and she had a whole hand of highlighters in different colors. Yeah. And she was doing things and highlighting things. I go, do you understand the colors? And she goes, oh yeah, the yellow means I'm going to look at it right away. The orange are things that I want to put up on my social media. She had a whole plan. So you've got to walk in with a plan. Because let me tell you, a whole book of a bunch of notes, you'll get back to it and go, And I know that we just went to the E-Women Network Dallas event, and I just had a mastermind at my house 2 weeks ago with 5 of us that went to the event. We all brought our notes, and we went page by page through everything and talked it through and said, so what did you think about this speaker? And I got this from this. And I go, I didn't even hear that. So it was really, after 2 hours, we're all like going, this is really a good idea. Right. So if you can have that, like your study hour at the end, or you go with a buddy and you guys, let's sit down, let's go over everything and talk about it.
Right. That's great. It's so good. I mean, when you look at, if you're investing anywhere from 1 to 3 days in an event, you want to be able to have some actionable steps that come out of it. I mean, how did it shift and change your life? Maybe it's not even about your business, but it's a way of being, or how you want to shift things with that. So I think that's really great. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit about, eating the frog every morning.
Okay, you know how you have that one thing that you hate to do every day, and it's just like, and you can't sleep all night because it's like there. If you get it done first thing in the morning, if you eat that frog, then the rest of the day it's like, this is a piece of cake. And usually that thing that's that frog is that fear because it's an unknown. And then after you get past it, your confidence is higher. And you're like, whoa, I did it. That was cool. And so then you feel better about yourself. So the things that you're doing all day are just enhancing that confidence. So for me, it's like, instead of thinking all day, oh, I got to do that, and it's sitting there and it's looking at me on my list, I'm like, oh, and so the anxiety is building. Get it done within the morning when you're the sharpest, you're the brightest. And, I just, it works for me.
Yeah, no, I love it. When I first heard that from, Brian Tracy about, eating the frog first and about doing that, I think people have heard that, but they don't necessarily see how it is part of practice. And one of the things I love that you do as part of why you work out in the morning is to build that confidence so you can then eat that frog. So I think it's important for the listeners to really look at that. Just because you say you're going to do the hardest thing first doesn't mean it's easy to do that first. And so having an action in place like working out, or for some people it's meditation, like whatever that is that builds that courage, allows you to do those most important things first. So I love that you have that in place.
Well, I also have found, and this is just recent, is you work out in the morning, you feel good, get in the shower, get dressed, do your hair, do your makeup, get dressed up, even if you don't have a Zoom call and you're going to be on camera, or you're not going to lunch or a meeting, it just makes you feel like you're in business and you feel good about yourself. It's night and day for me. If I'm sitting in a t-shirt and yoga pants and I haven't taken a shower because I worked out really hard in the morning, I'm really not giving my best to my business.
Yeah, I like that distinction. It's like, we're dressing up for ourselves, right?
Right.
And no, I totally get that. I tend to dress up more than average just because I like it. I feel better about it too. So I think that is a big difference. And that doesn't mean that, at 5 o'clock, that's when you can kick on the sweats. And, it's like really looking at your business as when does it start and when does it end, and what motivates your energy that allows you to be the most present, to be the most productive in that. So one of the things we do look at too is, there are certain things that disempower us versus empower us. And we know that, aside from building a thriving business, that you're also a wife to Keith and you're an Army mom to Rocky. And I know that some of your disempowering comes from being the mom, especially of a son in the service. So talk a little bit about how that can disempower you and how you move through that.
Well, an event planner is a type A personality. So we're always the one we're in control. We've got it down. Everything's in a schedule, and everything according to plan. Well, we know that being a mom, nothing goes as planned. And, I was in charge of all the fundraisers at school. I was PTA president. I was always there. I was able to take care of issues that would come up that I know might make my son feel negatively, either, about himself or things, I was there. Well, when your kid joins the Army, you don't exist. You can't just call up, Sergeant, my son's not feeling well today and he's having this issue. He can't get this paperwork done, so there's no one to call. And oh my God, if I did, he would kill me.
I'd be mortified.
So it's that anxiety that you have inside because you don't have that power. All you have the power to do is to help your son move through it. And it's very hard when, he doesn't want to listen to mom, and you're trying to say, well, if you do it this way, and if you said it this way, I've done it that way. So it's been very difficult. It's been a real learning thing because I've kind of been the one in charge, and I'm a bit of a, tyrant sometimes. So to just sit back and go, okay, you got this. And he does. He has it, and he gets through it. But it's one of those things that you fight, and you can't sleep at night because it's going in your head.
Right.
So it affects the way you work and how you feel because it's the anxiety that you're dealing with. So that working out in the morning helps with that anxiety as well.
So I know that there are, there's a lot that has empowered you, but I know there's a couple of things in particular that has really allowed you to kind of stand in your power and you feel like you're in your zone and you're doing your thing. Share with us a couple of those.
Well, recently, Diane and I both got the opportunity to speak at eWomen Network on the stage. And, I've been event planner. I'm the back of the room kind of girl, always wearing black. I'm running around doing things. I'm not the one on the stage. And I always thought, well, it's kind of nice. Every once in a while I'll speak, and it's good that wasn't going to be a focus for me. But the minute I stood on that stage and the lights hit and the camera started rolling and the timer started going, this calm came over me that I can't tell you has never happened before. And it was like I was in an element that I'd never been in before, and I loved it. I loved every second of it. I loved the audience clapping. I loved them laughing. It was an experience that I've decided now I want to replicate. So I'm actually moving forward, trying to do more speaking and getting out of the back of the room.
It's so great. I mean, I had the privilege. I mean, I was first up, so
Yes,
I was able to check that off, and I was able to then relax and be able to be in the audience. So I got to see you do that firsthand, and I have to say you were one of my favorite speakers, which is what had you top of mind to want you on my show. Because one of the things that you were saying about when you came out and you were just saying, I'm an eventaholic, right? And then you went into this whole thing about how you planned parties growing up, and then, whether it was in school or for your kids, and just all the things, and just your pure joy and enthusiasm for having an event, and not just an event, but just like an all-star event. It's such a distinguishing thing, because a lot of times I think when you think of a party planner, it's like, yeah, maybe they're a positive person, and they've got their to-do list and that, but you bring such energy to what you do, and I saw that on the stage, and it was just such a beautiful thing where it just married together your enthusiasm for what you do and your life experience and just the energy of how that came across on the stage. I was like, wow, she is in her power.
Thank you. I enjoyed every minute, and I must say that several of the people in the audience have now booked me to speak next year. So you take these opportunities when you get them, and don't get rid of that fear. And to be honest, a little fear is good for you on stage, because it gets your adrenaline going and it gets your testosterone up, and that fear gives you that little edge to you. So audiences feel it. So just go with it and get on stage and just start doing what you do. And if, like I said, I told a story. I didn't sell. I didn't, talk about my business. I talk about why I did my business. And if you tell a story, people listen.
Right. And people they don't really feel that you're having this fear or things that are happening. I mean, if I would critique myself while I was up there, I was thinking about things I might have missed, or a pause, or just little things around that. And I couldn't be in that space. I had to be like, okay, I'm serving, I'm telling a story, I'm, sharing what's here. And the reaction back was that they didn't see those blurps or those things that I thought were so obvious. And so, it's a great lesson for us to continue to look at, what we think is imperfection really lands in people in the same way. Because I had people as well ask me to come speak at their events and their things, based on that. And I thought, wow, they saw something because of the energy that we brought and how that really looked at. So it's important to know that when we don't do it for ourselves and we're doing it to have impact on other people, that's where it really lands for them, and they really get to see that. Which leads me to asking, like, why would working with an event planner for entrepreneurs, how does it take one more thing off their plate, yet it also helps build their business?
Okay, so I tell people that when they want to do an event, think about it as if you're planning a party. And when you're planning a party, you're taking care of the menu. You're taking care of the invitations. You've got to welcome everybody into the room. You've got to make sure they're getting their drinks. You got to make sure the food's coming out at the right time. You're running around like a rabbit. And are you enjoying your party? So think about that on the scale of an event. And if you are sitting at the front desk, welcoming everybody in, making sure the air conditioning is at the right level, making sure that everybody's got their seats, and then you've always got people from the hotel staff to people coming, I'm not on the list. Why am I not on the list? I thought I was supposed to get lunch and I don't have a VIP pass. How come parking is so? You should not be dealing with any of that. Now, a lot of people start with having their family or their mastermind VIPs run everything for them. That's all well and good in the beginning when you have a small room. But you need to understand that your mastermind clients are also entrepreneurs and they want to build their business at the same time. So they're going to be networking. They don't have your back in mind. I'm there to make sure that you are taken care of from the minute the event starts to the minute it ends. If I notice that the water's getting low on the podium, I make sure there's more water there. I make sure that lunch is being held if you're running a little late. I'm taking care of all these issues that are coming up so that you can stand on the stage, share your brilliance, and then come off stage and interact with your guests and talk to them and start these relationships and not have to run off and be answering questions and doing all of that. When you're ready to up level, that's when you get an event planner. Also, my little gift is to teach you how to pay for me and pay for everything, because the worst thing to do is to write a check at the end of an event and you brought in $2,000 and you're writing a check for $3,000. You should be breaking even or making a little money, but I teach you how to do that.
That's huge. That's huge. I mean, we know so many people that has happened to. So
Right.
Having a lot of that insider information makes such a big difference. And now I know people are going to want to connect with you. You want to tell a little bit about your group and some of the tips and tricks that you share?
All right. Well, I have a VIP group, and if you go to www.carusosignatureevents.com, you can join the VIP group, and every month you receive tips and tricks. I talk about speaking tips. I talk about different events that are going on in the area. If it's an event that I am actually affiliated with, you get discounted tickets to it and offers. But you get one email a month, and then you join my family, and you're part of my little group, and we just kind of love on each other, and I help you have that information that you might not be getting when you're talking to a hotel or you're talking to an event planner. And I make sure that you have that information you need. I also give a free consultation. It's on my website. If you want to talk about your event, schedule a call with me. I'd be glad to talk to you.
Perfect. I love it so much. And I love that it's just like once a month to get these tips, right?
Yeah.
You're not getting inundated with 5 a day or any of that. It's just like going to have a resource, because who are you going to ask? Like, how are you going to do it if you've never done a live event or a successful event? To be able to have a resource like Toni is so huge, to be able to have someone to go to. So I think it's great, especially even if you're thinking about an event. This is where you could start, learning about some of the things before you get started with that. And what you create in the environment that you have there makes a huge difference. And so
also,
speaking... Go ahead.
Can I just interrupt a little?
Sure.
Also, I have a lot of events. I have a huge expo in March of 2020, the Best You Expo, and they have 200 speakers. I need to find speakers. So get into my world, and as I send out this information every month, it's going to have a link. Hey, are you looking to speak? Here's an application process. Or you get to know me and I go, whoa, what a great topic. It's relationship building.
Right. I love that. So you could be on either end. You need to get on the stage, or you need support for your event. So I love that you have resources for all of those. So one of the things I was saying about the environment, because I think environments, me, I love environments in terms of what's supporting you and what's not supporting you. And so we create environments, whether, how we feel in our bedroom versus our kitchen versus our office are completely different. So what is your favorite room in your home and why?
Favorite room in my home and why? Well, I like my rooms. I think that my favorite room is the living room. There's no TV in there. It's got a really comfy couch. I found that on a Sunday afternoon, I like sitting on that comfy couch with a good book and just reading, and it's a huge window and it looks out on my backyard. That would probably be my favorite place in the house.
I love it. That sounds so good. So I love the environments that people create, because, the experience that you have in your life, when you bring that home, that's part of restoring. And, it makes perfect sense that, once you have your time off at 5, that you've got these environments that you're creating that you're enjoying, and some of the things that we're actually working for is being with our friends and family, and to be able to do some of that. So any final thoughts before we wrap up?
No, I just want to say that I think of you almost every day because of the one touch rule. Touch a piece of paper one time and put it away. And I must say that I've been spending a lot of time in the kitchen for the last week because my office was an absolute disaster. So Sunday I organized everything, put everything away, and now I'm like, okay, Diane, one touch. It's not getting in piles anymore. So I want to thank you for that.
Absolutely. My pleasure. For some of you who may not know, I've got my Clutter to Calm Academy, because I absolutely believe one of the foundations of your business is that you have an organized space. And what she's referring to is that when you touch something in your space, know where it goes. The one and done scenario is such a big deal. Would you need to take an action on it? Do you need to get rid of it? Does it need to be put away? When you make those decisions right away, you're not having to make them over and over again by touching things a million times. So thanks for the reminder of that, and for our audiences out there, because it makes such a big difference. It's these little hacks and tools, right? What are the ways that you are standing in your power? What are the things that you are doing that work for you? What is it that you're going to take away from this here? And I also will have in the show notes not only Toni's links to be able to connect with her and her group and her resources, but I also have my free gift of the resetyourpowergift.com, where you can have some more of these kind of life hacks that allow you to stand in your power and to have the tools to really do the brilliance that you're here to do. And most importantly, we want to thank you for your time. It's the most valuable resource that we all have, for taking the time to be here and to connect with us. You can really be part of the conversation by putting any questions or comments or ahas or something you got out of this interview. Make sure that you tag both Toni and myself, because we're happy to answer any questions that you have. Really here to serve and to make life better for all of you. So please, share and rate and connect in whatever way platform that you listen to this. Get this message out in the world, because everyone needs to have some support, and we're here to help. So until we connect again, live your spa life. Bye for now. Bye-bye.
Bye.